Bruno Mars used to be the face of nonstop hits, amazing shows, and absolute star power. But now that he's almost 40, things are completely different. His story has taken a startling turn, going from being at the top of the charts to having personal problems and a job that isn't what it used to be. Let's talk about Bruno Mars's ascension, his difficulties, and what life is like for him now. To get famous. Peter Gene Hernandez, better known as Bruno Mars, was born on October 8, 1985, in Honolulu, Hawaii. He grew up in a home where music was a big part of their lives. His childhood was different from most kids his age because he was already surrounded by instruments, rehearsals, and performances while most kids his age were playing outside or watching cartoons. Peter Hernandez, his father, was born in Brooklyn, New York, and is of Puerto Rican and Jewish descent. He was a percussionist who played instruments like congas and bongos. Bernadette Bernie San Pedro Bayo, his mother, was a singer and hula dancer who came to Hawaii from the Philippines. His parents established a home where music, rhythm, and being on stage were important. Bruno was already on stage while he was only a toddler. His dad had a family band called the Love Notes that played in Waikiki, and little Bruno joined it. He rapidly became known as Little Elvis because he could copy the king of rock and roll so well. He wore a small jumpsuit and slicked back hair and sang Elvis Presley songs with a confidence and charm that astonished people. People who watch. He was only 4 years old, but he was already stealing the show. People who came to see his family perform were often shocked by how well he could copy Elvis's moves and energy. This made him famous in his hometown. Bruno even had a little part in the 1992 movie Honeymoon in Vegas, when he played a mini Elvis impersonator. Hawaii's media also noticed his talent. As one of the youngest Elvis impersonators in the world, he was in publications and newspapers. Even though performance was fun, living at home wasn't always easy. His family wasn't very wealthy, and there were times when they had trouble making ends meet. Bruno has talked about how these problems made him more determined to succeed. He could always turn to music to get away from his problems at home. It gave him a reason to live and a goal to work for. It was evident that Bruno sought more than just local recognition by the time he was a teenager. Playing in Hawaii was a terrific start, but he realized that the best chances were on the mainland. He left home and moved to Los Angeles when he was only 17 and had just graduated from high school. It was a big choice for someone so young, especially since he didn't have much money or a clear idea of how to succeed. But he had years of experience and an unshakable faith in his abilities. Life in Los Angeles in the beginning was not at all glamorous. Bruno was turned down by record labels over and over again because they didn't know how to sell him. Some others believed he was too different. Some people didn't like the way he did things. He did odd jobs to make ends meet while still trying to break into the music business. He didn't always believe he had made the proper option because money was scarce. He still wouldn't give up, though. Bruno had a lot of problems, but his big break was just around the corner, and the world was about to see who he truly was. The songwriter who was having a hard time. When Bruno Mars was a youngster and initially moved to Los Angeles, he felt that his years of performing in Hawaii would instantly make him famous. But the music business was not at all what he thought it would be. He had the voice, the stage presence, and the drive, but record labels didn't know what to do with him. They didn't see a clear box for him, which made it hard for him to get noticed. Bruno didn't give up. Instead, he started working behind the scenes to try to get his foot in the door in any way he could. Bruno did anything he could to stay alive in Los Angeles during his first few years there. Several labels turned him down because they didn't like how he looked or sounded. That rejection hurt, but it also made him think in a new way. He thought that if people didn't want to hear him sing, they could be okay with him writing songs. This change was the way he moved forward. Bruno started to concentrate on writing songs for other musicians. There was no doubt that he was good at writing appealing hooks and melodies. And it rapidly got the attention of musicians and producers who were looking for new songs. He co-wrote songs for Brandy, Sean Kingston, Adam Levine, and Flo Rida early on. At this point, he wasn't well known, and most people who heard these songs didn't know who Bruno Mars was. But in the business, people were starting to talk about how good of a songwriter he was. Bruno met Philip Lawrence about this time. a singer and composer who had the same problems and hopes. They got along right away and decided to work together. They got in touch with engineer and producer Ari Levine not long after. The three of them worked together as a production and songwriting team that they called the Smeezingtons. Bruno's career took a big turn when he teamed up with this person. As the Smeezingtons, the three of them started collaborating with some of the biggest names in music. They wrote songs that became hits for CeeLo Green, Travie McCoy, B.O.B., and Canon. Each project made them more credible and opened up new opportunities. B.O.B.'s Nothing on You in 2010 was the group's big break. Bruno not only created the song, but he also sung the hook. The song was a huge smash, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and getting Grammy nominations. Even though he was still technically working behind the scenes, millions of people were hearing Bruno's voice for the first time. That same year, the Smeezingtons helped write Travie McCoy's Billionaire, which also had Bruno on the chorus and was a #1 hit. These singles showed that Bruno wasn't just a background songwriter, he had the charm and sound to be at the front. People all over the world were starting to pay attention. Even though he did well with the Smeezingtons, Bruno got turned down a lot in the years before he became a successful solo artist. At first, his bosses told him he wasn't marketable enough to be the face of an album. Some people didn't know how to put his music in a box because it was a mix of pop, R&B, funk, reggae, and soul. Some people didn't think his style or look matched the model of a pop star at the time. Bruno didn't give up, instead, he used those years to get better at what he did. He could try out numerous sounds, structures, and techniques by writing for different acts. He learned what made songs popular and used that knowledge to make his own music. The labels didn't think he would sell, but Bruno was quietly getting ready to show them wrong. Nothing on You in 2009. He not only helped write the song, but he also sung the smooth, passionate chorus. The song was a huge smash around the world, hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and staying there for weeks. It was also a hit in other nations, as it topped charts in the UK and elsewhere. This was the first time many people had ever heard Bruno's voice, and it stood out right away. The way he mixed tenderness and force in the chorus helped the song stick in my mind. Travie McCoy's song Billionaire came out in 2010, and Bruno penned and sang on it as well. He was back on the chorus, singing a fun and catchy hook about wanting to live the high life. The song was one of the biggest singles of the summer and made it into the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. Millions of people knew Bruno's voice by now, and his name was starting to show up in music news all the time. These two collaborations were crucial since they showed that he wasn't merely a writer who worked behind the scenes. He has the charm and singing ability to be in front. People started to realize that the person behind these hooks could accomplish a lot more than just that. Bruno finally put out his first solo single, Just the Song, after years of waiting. It was a passionate ballad about love and admiration that has no bounds. It quickly became a hit all over the world. The song debuted at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 4 weeks. In addition to the US, it also reached the top of the charts in Canada, the UK, and Australia. The song did quite well. It sold a lot of copies, became a wedding favorite, and was played on radio stations all around the world all the time. Bruno knew he had made it as a solo artist when he got this. People loved him not just as a guest on someone else's song, but as a star in his own right. Bruno's music started to get popularity in the music business as well as on the charts. He got a lot of Grammy nominations for his work during this time. Just the Way You Are received the Grammy for Best Male Pop Vocal Performance in 2011. This win was a big deal because it showed that critics and others in the business respected him as highly as fans did. His Grammy performances also helped him become known as a great showman. Bruno's live shows were different from those of many other musicians since they didn't rely on production as much. Instead, they were based on his strong voice, his band, and his ability to connect with people. He stood out from other new singers because he was confident on stage, whether he was singing a ballad or an exciting tune. In October 2010, Bruno's first album, Doo-Wops and Hooligans, came out. The album had pop, R&B, reggae, and soul music on it, which showed how many different styles he had grown up with and used in his composing. There were more than one form of sound. It was a selection that showed how flexible Bruno could be. There were popular hits on the album like Grenade, The Lazy Song, Marry You, and Count on Me. Each song showed a distinct facet of his craft. The Lazy Song was a fun and joyful song, while Grenade was a sad ballad about heartbreak. People started using Marry You as a wedding and proposal song. And Count on Me was a beautiful acoustic song that showed off his softer side. Doo-Wops and Hooligans was a big hit, selling millions of copies throughout the world. It made it to number 3 on the Billboard 200 list in the US and did well on charts in a number of other nations. Bruno's critics applauded him for being able to combine classic sounds with new pop sounds. People liked how honest and different his music was. By the end of 2011, Bruno Mars had done what many artists spend years trying to do. He had number 1 songs, a Grammy Award, a best-selling first album, and fame all over the world. He had been turned down and had to fight to get to Los Angeles for years, but now he was one of the most important new voices in mainstream music. But being famous also brought new problems, and soon Bruno would have to deal with problems that would put his image and his personal life to the test. Bruno's relationships. As Bruno became more famous, people became more interested in his personal life. Early on in his career, he was linked to a few famous romances, such as Rita Ora, a model and actor. But one bond in particular became the most important element of his narrative. Bruno has been dating Jessica Caban, a model and actor, since 2011. He has kept this relationship rather discreet, unlike a lot of other famous people. The two have been seen together at gatherings from time to time, though. Bruno has talked a lot about how hard it may be to keep his personal life private while being famous. It was hard for him to keep his work and personal life separate because of all the media and fan attention. He intended to keep his personal life private, but the public wanted to know everything about his family, relationships, and way of life. Even still, Bruno was able to dodge a lot of the problems that sometimes surround musicians who are as famous as he is. He thought his music and performances were more important than the news stories. His family was still a big part of his life. Bruno's mother, Bernadette, died in 2013 from a brain aneurysm, which broke his heart. He said afterward that it altered him permanently, and it was a terrible loss. He still remembered her, though, often saying that she was the reason he loved music. Bruno Mars had become a superstar, known not only for his number 1 hits but also for his showmanship, style, and ability to stay grounded in a world where everyone was always watching. But even as his fame rose, Bruno would soon confront problems and scandals that put everything he had fought so hard to achieve to the test. Lawsuits and arrests. In September 2010, when Bruno's celebrity was only starting to grow, he had one of the first big problems in his career. He was arrested at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas while celebrating after a show. The police said they found him in a bathroom with a small amount of cocaine. Fans were shocked by this news at the time because Bruno had been working hard to create an image of a polished, upbeat performer who stayed away from bad behavior. The arrest resulted to a charge of having cocaine. Bruno worked with the police and said he was sorry for what he did. He had to do 200 hours of community service, go to drug counseling, and pay a fine as part of his court sentence. He also had to remain out of trouble for a whole year to avoid going to jail. Some people were worried that the arrest would hurt his career, but Bruno was careful about what he did next. He said he was sorry in public, saying it was a bad choice and vowed to focus on his music. He was able to restore his reputation rather fast by taking responsibility and meeting the conditions. His tracks kept ascending the charts for months, and fans were ready to move on with him. Still, the event is still one of the most talked about low periods in his life. Bruno's second big scandal happened in 2014, but this time it was connected to one of his biggest triumphs. His song Uptown Funk, which he worked on with producer Mark Ronson, became one of the most popular songs of the decade. The song was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks, sold millions of copies throughout the world, and received several Grammy Awards. But as it got more popular, some started to say that it took too much from older funk and R&B tracks. A number of groups filed complaints, saying that Uptown Funk took sections of their work without permission. The most famous case was about the Gap Band, a funk band from the 1970s. They said that the song's rhythm and mood were too close to their song Oops Upside Your Head. After a settlement, the Gap band members were finally added to the list of credited writers for the song. Bruno Mars got a lot of bad press again in 2018. This time for taking things from other cultures. Some people said that Bruno, who is Filipino, Puerto Rican, and Jewish, was making money off of African American music styles like funk, soul, R&B, and hip-hop without being a part of that culture himself. There was more disagreement after he won a number of Grammy Awards for 24K Magic, an album that was heavily influenced by black music from the 1980s and 1990s. One viral video accused Bruno of taking black culture to make his career, which made online comments very heated. A lot of admirers supported him by saying that Bruno had always been honest about who influenced him and that he had collaborated with a lot of black artists over the years. They said that his song was a tribute, not an exploitation. But the claims did start questions about authenticity, ownership, and representation in the music business. Bruno thought the controversy hurt him because it hurt his reputation. People used to praise him for making people happy and nostalgic with his songs, but now some people are wondering if that happiness came at the cost of others. The dispute finally died down, but it left a shadow that reminded him of how quickly people's opinions can change. People praised Bruno for his music, but news of his financial problems behind the scenes also started to spread. Even though he had chart-topping hits, sold-out tours, and residencies in Las Vegas, there were reports of growing indebtedness because of his lavish spending. Bruno was known for living in style, with expensive residences, automobiles, and parties that cost a lot of money. According to the news, he had problems with taxes and running his firm, which led to lawsuits and big money settlements. Some people said he was in debt for millions of dollars, even though he was still doing well. Fans found it hard to believe that someone who was so successful could have such problems. But it illustrated how rapidly money can go in the entertainment business. Because of these problems, Bruno had to rely increasingly on residencies in Las Vegas, where he could count on steady income from shows. Residencies are frequently seen of as a step down from the top of the mainstream stardom, even when they are profitable, prompting many to think that his money troubles had made his options fewer. Bruno Mars has been through legal problems, litigation, criticism, and money problems, yet each controversy hurt his carefully crafted image. And while the problems kept coming, people wondered if Bruno could preserve his superstar glow or if all of the stress would eventually make him less bright. The fall of a star. Bruno's third studio album, 24K Magic, came out in 2016. The project was a loud, colorful party that celebrated funk, R&B, and the party culture of the 1990s. Songs like 24K Magic, That's What I Like, and Finesse quickly became successes, taking over radio and streaming sites. The record was a complete package. It was flashy, vibrant, and made for dancing and singing along. 24K Magic was a huge hit. Bruno went on a world tour that sold out arenas and stadiums all over the world. People liked how he looked on stage, how he danced, and how his band played. The Hooligans were putting on one of the best live shows in pop music. Bruno had perfected his showman image by this point. The industry also gave him an award. At the 2018 Grammy Awards, 24K Magic won in all the big categories. He won multiple awards, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year. It was one of the most important Grammy nights of the last 10 years. For Bruno, this was the height of fame, as both fans and critics recognized him as the whole artist. But in a lot of ways, 24K Magic was also the best thing that had happened to him. The issue emerged: where can he go from here, after such a huge accomplishment? After the success of 24K Magic, Bruno took a long break from making music on his own. He finally came back, but only as part of a new endeavor. He and Anderson .Paak got together in 2021 to make the group Silk Sonic. The two of them put out the single Leave the Door Open, a smooth, soulful ballad that sounded like R&B groups from the 1970s. The song became popular right away. It debuted number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and got good reviews for its singing and production. Silk Sonic then released an album called An Evening with Silk Sonic, which had songs like Smokin' Out the Window and Fly As Me. The project won Grammy Awards and got Bruno and Anderson praise for their chemistry and musicianship. Both fans and critics praised the craftsmanship. The CD was smooth, made me feel nostalgic, and was put together wonderfully. But some people thought it relied too much on old-school sounds. Bruno had always taken ideas from older genres, but with Silk Sonic, the sound seemed to be all about looking back. For them, this was genius, an artist who mastered old styles and brought them back to life. Some people thought it was too much, with Bruno leaning too much on the past instead of moving on to something new. Even while Silk Sonic was a hit, it didn't have the same cultural impact as Bruno's earlier solo efforts. It got prizes and acclaim, but it didn't rule the charts or get as much attention throughout the world as 24K Magic did. Bruno Mars' work as a recording artist slowed down even more after Silk Sonic. Bruno became silent, unlike in the past when he seemed to always have a new smash on the charts. Since 24K Magic came out in 2016, he hasn't put out a solo album. Fans have been waiting years for new music. In the fast-paced music business, a gap like this made it simple for newer performers to get attention. Bruno stopped making new music and started putting more effort into live shows, especially his residencies in Las Vegas. These shows let him keep performing for fans and make a stable salary. His time at places like the Park MGM was well received and popular, but many people think that an artist's days of dominating the charts are over when they start doing residencies. Bruno wasn't touring the world with new singles, instead, he was performing classic songs for fans who wanted to hear them again. This change was a turning point. Bruno Mars was still a talented and recognized performer, but it appeared like his career had slowed down. He had lost the constant drive that had taken him from one hit to the next. Instead, there was a beat that was calmer and more dependable. As time went on, fans started to wonder what Bruno Mars's life was like now. Bruno Mars right now. Bruno Mars is almost 40 today, and his career looks drastically different than it did in the early years when he seemed to rule the music business. He used to be one of the most reliable pop hitmakers, but in the last several years he has been more quieter. The artist who used to rule the charts has stopped releasing new singles, winning awards, and going on world tours all the time. Fans are left wondering what happened to him. Bruno seems to be less interested in following conventional trends as he gets older. He doesn't feel like the unstoppable force he used to be. Many people now think he is receding from the spotlight because of this change. It's strange that a performer who made his name by being everywhere at once is now so quiet. Bruno used to go on big world tours, but for the past few years, he has mostly been performing in Las Vegas. He has had long-term jobs at big places like the Park MGM. People like his concerts, and reviews often remark how good they are. Bruno keeps giving people what they want. Strong singing, tight dance moves, and the same charm that made him famous. But residencies have a different reputation than foreign tours. They are dependable, steady, and pay well. But they also mean that they are no longer global superstars. Many people think that Las Vegas residencies are where performers go when they aren't topping the charts all the time anymore. Bruno might still provide excellent performances, but the stage feels smaller than the globe stage he used to rule. There have been rumors that Bruno's need on residencies is due to money concerns. Even though he has been quite successful, others have said that he has a lot of tax debts and spends a lot of money. He may have gotten in trouble because of his expensive residences, automobiles, and way of life. It's hard to get exact numbers, but the whispers have been strong enough to change how others see him. It's hard to believe that someone who sold millions of records and played to sold-out arenas would have money problems. But there are many examples in the music business of stars who lost control of their money, and Bruno has not been able to avoid the rumors. The impression that he is relying on continuous revenue from Las Vegas to pay off debts has caused people to believe that his career is not as safe as it once seemed. Bruno's life is quieter now because he has stayed out of the public eye. He used to be in the news and interviews all the time, but now he doesn't do it as often. Some people think that years of relentless performing may have hurt his health. Bruno hasn't said much about it, but touring, preparing, and playing at the high-intensity level he's known for can wear down even the strongest performers. Bruno has also kept more of his personal life to himself in the last few years. He has been with Jessica Caban for a long time, but they don't like to be in the public eye. This retreat has made it tougher to keep up with him, which adds to the feeling that he is pulled back from the world that used to love him so much. A lot of followers think that the difference between Bruno Mars now and Bruno Mars then is huge. He used to be the very definition of happiness, confidence, and showmanship. His career was founded on new ideas and enthusiasm. Some people think he is fading now and is relying on old songs and nostalgia to keep his career going. His live shows are still great, but they're mostly made up of songs from his best years, not new ones. Bruno is now living off the foundation he laid years ago instead of defining the direction of pop music like he used to. Nostalgia is what keeps his career going right now. Some people think this is a terrible reality for an artist who once appeared unstoppable. If you like this, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like it.